the environmental group Greenpeace has raised concerns over Eskom's exemption from complying with minimum emissions standards. Let's get more on this then. We're joined via Zoom by environmental and social activist Thandile Chinyavanhu from Greenpeace Africa. Very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News. Please will you unmute yourself?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
You're most welcome, Thandile. All right, let's talk about this then. In essence, what does this decision mean? This decision by forestry, fisheries and environment ministries to grant this exemption from certain environmental requirements mean for us in general? I mean, it does seem as though this is something, that's been put there so that it can help us out of another situation. But let's hear your perspective about what this actually then means for us.
So South Africa's minimum emission standards are already dangerously weak in terms of international standards. And we saw in 2020, Minister Barbara Creecy actually weakening these standards significantly. And so what we want to see is our government recognizing the risk that it poses to our health, particularly the communities of Mpumalanga in the Coal Belt region that are suffering daily as a result of the air pollution. It makes it very difficult for people to live life in an area where they're continuously being affected by foul odors that are exacerbating their health issues around lung, respiratory diseases, mental health issues, and it's definitely created an even more severe problem in the area. So despite the fact that there's a judgment that has been made recently as a part of the deadly air case to highlight to the minister that these are human rights violations that are taking place in this area, it's quite concerning to see that she's continued to grant postponements to Eskom on already very weak emissions that they continue to flout.
Yeah. You talk about, I was listening to that previous clip that we had there, and you had something to say about Eskom's toxic addiction to coal. What are you presenting as an option, particularly as we find ourselves in the situation that we're in now pertaining to load shedding, for example, and bearing in mind that, the options that you might present are long-term options, and South Africans are looking for solutions right now?
Well, the solution that we're presenting is not a long-term option. It's something that could be implemented in the immediate, and that would be renewable energy. So with some of these projects, we could see them coming on within the next 12 to 18 months. But the challenge that we have with Eskom now is that we have such a dependency on coal. As you know, in South Africa, our energy mix is made up of 87% coal, and it has managed to affect our energy security significantly to the point where we're seeing load shedding become such a significant issue in our lives that it is affecting us on a daily basis. So what we want to see is our government recognizing the potential of renewable energy to not only meet the climate change imperative, but the social imperative as well, and really initiate measures to clean up the Coal Belt region and in Mpumalanga and allow for the cleanup efforts around air quality to start taking place.
Well, is there no duty to give Eskom the support that it needs? And, pardon me, I'll play devil's advocate here, but surely this is what Minister Barbara Creecy was looking at the fact that Eskom does need the support to get back to the level of electricity output, that moves the country forward. And I think I did put it to you earlier on that isn't this quite a tricky situation where we're trying to fix one problem while, there's another problem that presents itself, and surely one has to look at where the bigger issue.
Well, I think our government's ineptitude has allowed us to get to this point where we have to manage multiple crises at the same time. This is a 15-year crisis that has been ongoing, and they've been aware at every stage of what they've needed to do to ensure that we get back on track. So ultimately, our government needs to put that aside and recognize the rights of people and the right to a safe and free environment for people before they continue to allow Eskom to flout regulations.
All right. So Greenpeace is opposed to this. What will you do about it?
We continue to campaign extensively, speaking to stakeholders in government to ensure that they recognize the importance of this. But even still, we continue to see a government disregarding the voices of civil society and prioritizing profit over people.
All right. Thanks very much for giving us your input there, Thandile. We appreciate you giving us your time there. Greenpeace's Thandile Chinyavanhu speaking to us there on the back of Eskom, welcoming that decision by Forestry, Fisheries and Environment Minister Barbara Creecy to grant it an exemption from certain environmental requirements needed to amend its atmospheric emissions license.